as Christians, our greatest desire ought to be going to heaven, don't you think? And if it's not, then that should be our priority. We should develop a desire more than anything else is to enter heaven when our life is over here on this earth. And that's what we need to do, but so much of the time we are sidetracked. We get overwhelmed with this life at times, and we end up doing things that aren't inducive to going to heaven. But that's what we need to develop. And the question is, how do we develop that desire more than anything else to enter heaven? It needs to be something that you think about often. It needs to be something that occupies your mind every day. You need to think about who you are and who you belong to and who you want to spend eternity with. That desire needs to grow in you as a Christian so that you could set that up as a major goal in your life. The most important goal in your life is to enter heaven. There are several verses that talk about that and trying to get us to be thinking more in spiritual terms and eternal terms. And I want to look at a few of them. Colossians 3, first 4 verses of Colossians chapter 3, and Paul talks about this. He says there, then, if then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is. One of the main reasons for wanting to go to heaven is that's where Christ is. You want to be where Christ is. And if Christ is seated on high in heaven, then that's where we want to be. That's where we want to go. It says, seek things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things that are above, and not on things that are on the earth. It's unfortunate that most of our time is spent thinking about things that are here on this earth. And for a big part of that, we have to, because we have all got to make a living and take care of obligations that are and the demands on our life. But if we would learn to just not worry about them things quite so much and think more things about on the things that are above, then Jesus tells us that all these things are going to be taken care of. All your needs and the necessities of this life are going to be taken care of if your mindset is on things above. The next verse there is, for you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. The more our minds are on heavenly things, the more we concentrate on spiritual things, the more prepared we are when Christ comes again. When he does appear, we will enter that glory with him in heaven. Hebrews chapter 11, and we know that's the famous verse about all the heroes of faith and all. And as it talks and lists all them down, we jump down to verse 13. After talking about all those great heroes of faith, he says there that these all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off. Those that were heroes of faith had their mindset on spiritual things. They knew that there was something much more important than this life, and they worked towards that. Having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on this earth. Maybe we need to develop the mindset that we are a stranger here. we belong in heaven, and we are on a journey here. We are going through a place that should be strange to us. If we were consider ourselves strangers on the earth and we are heavenly beings, then maybe that would help our mindset think more on things of above. Verse 14, for they which say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they have been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had the opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country, that is, a heavenly. Wherefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared for them a city. He has prepared also us a city. If we could just get our mindset that we belong in heaven, we are a citizen of heaven, and we are just sojourners here on this earth. We are pilgrims here on this earth. We are travelers. Isaiah 51, verse 11. Therefore the redeemed of the Lord shall return, and come with singing into Zion. And everlasting joy shall be upon their heads, and they shall obtain gladness and joy, and sorrow and mourning shall flee away. One of the greatest desires of making it into heaven is the joy that we will have when we get there. And the happiness and the joy and all the sorrow and the pain that we go through on this earth will not even be thought of in heaven. All the pain and the suffering that we go through here on this earth will have ended. And it'll be a great place to spend eternity. Paul talks about it quite a bit in Corinthians. And in 2 Corinthians 5, starting with verse 5 through 8, I'd like to read that in the closing for the thoughts here. For if we know that our earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, we have a building of God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. Of course, he's talking about that house that of our bodies here on this earth as they deteriorate, as you grow older and things don't work like they used to, and the aches and pains come more often and stronger, and the abilities to do the things sort of deteriorate. And I've noticed that as we've been climbing and building this house, I have to be a lot more careful than I used to be. I used to climb like a monkey, and now I'm clinging on with everything I got when I climb to get off the ground. But that's the body breaking down. And as we live, we realize we've got to be more careful. We become more fragile, and we just know that that's one of the main things that tell us that we are in a temporary place when we realize this body is breaking down. Verse 2, for in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed upon with our house which is from heaven. We earnestly desire that new spiritual body that won't have aches and pains and problems and needing surgeries and whatever the case is. Verse 3, if so be that being clothed, we shall not be found naked. For we that are in this tabernacle do groan, being burdened, not for that we would be unclothed, but clothed upon, that mortality might be swallowed up of life. We groan in this earthly body because we don't want to stay in this earthly body. We want that spiritual body. We want to shed this mortal body for one that's immortal and that will last forever, and it will not deteriorate or break down or cause pain and suffering. Verse 5, now he that hath wrought us for the selfsame thing is God, which also has given us the earnest of the Spirit. Therefore, we are always confident, knowing that while we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Lord. As long as you're here in this earthly body, this physical body, you're absent from the Lord. For we walk by faith, not by sight. We are confident, I say, and willing rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. There should be our greatest desire, to shed this earthly body and put on that spiritual body that can stand before the Lord. This old earthly body can't stand before the Lord, but the spiritual one can. It'll be fit for us to live eternally in the presence of the Lord. So developing that desire for heaven, I guess my main point tonight is put that goal in front of you each day. The goal to go to heaven. Let it become your greatest desire on this earth. That no matter what I do on this earth, it should be with the thought that this is all temporary. Whatever happens to me on this earth is all temporary. I can put up with anything for a while, as long as I know there's an end to it. If heaven is waiting for me, then I can live this life a whole lot more faithfully, knowing where I'm going. Anybody that might have some needs tonight, needs to build your faith, need prayers for things you might be struggling with, or whatever the case may be, would you come forward as we stand and sing? His love.